pjnet.tv, a brand new week. It is Monday, July 13th, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. We are running a bumper, we are recording, we are streaming on all available platforms. We have Andy Clapp standing by. We will switch to Studio 7 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did I say Studio 7? That is incorrect. This is Studio 8. I should know that. But in any event, welcome to a brand new week here at pjnet.tv. I'm Coach Prasick, your host, and every month on the, let's see, I always get this wrong, so let me try to get it right this time. It is the second Monday of the month, and that is the appointed time that we have one of the patriarchs, I think, of PJNet's catalytic conversion into the Christian writer's world. Andy Clapp is with us. He is, after all, the pastor at the church that hosted the North Carolina Christian Writers Conference, and you do that every year. Andy, good to see you. I only get to see you once a month, and you haven't been able to shave or go to the barber or anything like that, apparently.
No, I'm trying to grow it all out, Coach.
It's not
got to grow it while I got it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, can do that. Andy, I'm. It seems like every time I don't watch television, but from time to time I will be walking by, and a television is blaring, and I can't help but hear. And I'm sick of it, to be honest, but is there anything to talk about other than coronavirus? It has impeded many parts of our lives, invaded all parts of our lives, and pervades our culture. That's all the ADEs I can think of. I'm trying to preach on the fly here, and I'm not good at it. But your blog today brought out an angle that I don't think anybody has thought of until now, how it is affecting us socially and therefore spiritually.
Well, and thank you, Coach. It's good to see you. I always enjoy coming on and getting to spend some time with you and those who join us during this time. One of the things that I'm noticing, and when I say the word fear, I don't mean, shuddering in fear. I mean approaching with caution. One of the things that I find troubling right now is that the coronavirus has really ramped up a problem we had prior to it. And what that is there's a disconnect between us. There's a disconnect in our society right now. People have more relationships on text message and on social media than they actually have in face-to-face form. And spiritually speaking, when we create ourselves into an island and we cut other people off, we're abandoning one of God's original part of the original design for human beings, that we are to be in relationship, and not virtually, but in vital relationships where we're sitting together, talking together, sharing together, just sharing our lives together. But now that all this stuff has happened, we're seeing even a greater disconnect in people than we've ever seen before.
Now, how much of the blame can we put on coronavirus? Some of these trends were already in motion. I have watched remember when you could go to a restaurant and sit down and eat? I would watch, and there'd be a table, a family sitting there, several teenagers, and teenagers would literally be texting each other across the table rather than speaking.
Yeah. I'm not going to say it's all blame on the coronavirus, because this has existed for quite some time. Since cell phones got more prevalent in our society, and the smarter the phone got, it seems like the dumber we got. Because honestly, we depend on it and in ways that really we shouldn't. And I put in that blog today, a line I had in that blog is that our connectivity is based more upon chargers than it is upon chairs. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, we lose our connection with other people when our phone dies. When it should be that we should be more about pulling up a rocking chair and hanging out and talking and sharing life together, because it's imperative for us to have those relationships. I mean, two of them I pointed out in that blog today. Look at David and his friend Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, were it not for Jonathan, David probably would have been killed, right? And then the benefit of that for Jonathan was that after he was gone, after Jonathan had perished, his son Mephibosheth was taken care of by David because of the relationship that Jonathan and David had when they were alive. You see, it's not just for the here and now, it's for far beyond that relationships matter. Have you ever thought about what the disciple John wrote in his gospel? How did John refer to himself in his gospel? He is the disciple who Jesus loved. Now, John wasn't scribbling all that down as they were walking. I mean, he may have scribbled some of it, but not all of it, right? But he was remembering a relationship and the power of that relationship, so much so that he identified himself, not even by name. He said, I am the one that he loved. Mm-hmm. And we're losing that throughout our culture. I mean, one of the big problems is civility in itself. People can't have civilized conversations anymore. And that is a breakdown of society. When we can't civilly talk, even when we disagree, that we can't civilly talk about it, that's a breakdown. But we're getting to the point now that we're just like, man, I'm an island. I don't need nobody else. And that is dangerous ground to be on, because the Lord created us. He created us, and has you've seen throughout His Word where relationships matter. And the coronavirus, I think, has just put it on steroids. It's taken it and put it on steroids. And we were having this discussion just a couple weeks ago, me and some of the deacons at my church, as to who will come back to church when all of this is over, and who will get into the frame of, I don't need it anymore. I've gotten used to being at home and watching it online. And believe me when I say this, I'm all for it being online. I think we need to flood the airwaves with it. But at the same time, we don't want to neglect being together at times. And when we're seeing that trend throughout society, the church never follows societal trends. We shouldn't follow societal trends. Now, the great hoping is that the Lord still reigns and we can celebrate Jesus all the time. But there is a fear and a caution that needs to be there. Don't disconnect from everybody, because we need each other. We absolutely need each other, especially in these times.
You got me thinking now. The church, you say the church, is following, cultural trends. But
we have for years.
Rewind that a while back, the church was leading social trends.
Yeah, and well, I mean, I've made comments about this before. I mean, I'm going to be very honest with you. One of the great failures of the church would be, quite a few decades ago. And some people will not like this, what I'm getting ready to say, but it's just the truth. When we allowed people to start depending on government for everything, that was a moment for the church to step up and provide. And because here's what happens, all right? Wherever people get their needs taken care of, that becomes their moral authority. Mm-hmm. The government can't be our moral authority.
Obviously.
It can't.
Not anymore.
All right? But what happened was when the government got into the business of, providing food, providing shelter, providing these things, and I'm not saying those are bad things. Do you understand that?
Well, the need has to get met.
It's got to get met. But do we not believe that God could equip the church to take care of those needs? I mean, as I read Acts, I see people getting taken care of. But what happens is the minute the church is not that moral authority anymore, we're in a whole heaping mess of trouble. And that's where we've gotten to in America.
I'm seeing the
Whatever
word in the chat
now,
room that I've been waiting to say. And the word here is abdicated. And what you're describing is an abdication of our responsibility to each other and to the community at large.
Yes.
Has been abdicated.
Yes.
Okay? We sat there and did nothing thinking that the Great Society was a good thing. And it was intended to be a good thing. There's nothing wrong with having a desire that no one go hungry. There's nothing wrong with a desire that no one sleep unsheltered. But there was a day, Andy, and now we got to go back further, when the family was not a nuclear family. It was an extended family where you had 3 generations, even more sometimes, living under the same roof. And the grandparents were caretakers of the little toddlers, so the parents could. The Industrial Revolution changed that. Dad went to town to work. Before that, Dad and son were out on the farm working, bonding, and he was discipling his offspring, while Mom was doing a similar task in a different role. But the Industrial Revolution set the stage. So we're getting a little esoteric. So let me ask you point blank, what do we do now at the beginning of church? I used to see these things. Please turn off your devices. You want to go there?
I don't want to go there.
I didn't think you did.
but well, here's why: is because there are folks who use electronic scripture. I mean, and I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. But where we get to is, who is your God? Are we really? Is this the Lord of our lives? Because we're spending more time on it than we are with Jesus Himself.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the Lord is my Lord, I can set this thing aside, and so what? So be it.
But
it's gotten a control.
Yeah, there was
a day. It's gotten a control over us.
When you wouldn't, if you left home, there were 2 things that you would always have in your possession: your keys and your wallet.
And the American Express card.
Well, yeah, I don't. And today we can add a third thing. If you get in your car and head down the road, within a block or 2, you're going to realize, and you will turn around to go retrieve that phone.
Because there's a dependency growing in us for these things. But what it's ended up doing is it's costing us the connection with other people. We may reach other people, and we may be able to talk to other people through social media and stuff like that we don't normally talk to. But how much of that is seeping into and taking over my relationship with my kids who are right here in my house? I mean, I ought to be paying more attention to them than scrolling Facebook. And going along those lines, as we were saying with the church, and looking at the needs of the community, we've disconnected that, and we've got to get back into it so that way we become that moral authority again, right where we're at. We've got more than enough churches. I just believe in a really big God. When God said He has storehouses in heaven, I believe He meant it. I mean, I really do believe that He meant that. And when the church starts meeting the needs of the community, and James said, what good is it to tell somebody to go in peace and be filled if you're not going to fulfill that physical need? When the church starts reaching those people and reaching those needs in our community, then guess what? We're making a connection. A connection that's not going to be made if we don't do something.
Okay.
And right now, I'm telling you, I think that this is the moment for churches to truly be churches. This is the Matthew 25 moment for churches. I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. thirsty and you gave me something to drink. Go meet needs. Because when we do, we're making relationships.
You're really onto something now, Andy, because let me try to gain some perspective. I believe that smartphones, I believe social media, the internet, and all that has produced or has presented an opportunity of historic, unprecedented proportion.
I agree.
Now, but here's the problem, Andy. Here's where we need to get perspective. We have the ability to proclaim the gospel as we have never had. But when proclaiming the gospel becomes the substitute for carrying out the Great Commission, we have, see, well, you said it. I'm just rephrasing it and reframing it. Folks, we need to use every tool and every opportunity to proclaim the message. But if all we do is proclaim the message, we have fallen short of our duty under the Great Commission. You can only proclaim on social media. You cannot literally feed someone who is hungry on Facebook. Okay? Electrons don't taste very good. They're not very nutritious.
So, and that's the scary thing, is that we're going to get into this mindset in these times. If we're not careful, we're going to get into this mindset that we don't need our neighbor. But that's the very one that we're called to love, is our neighbor. That's where I see the danger in all this, is we are going to get accustomed to being cut off. And we're going to justify it by saying, hey, I'm still connected through text message, or I'm still connected through...
It placates you into it placates you. Now, prior to social media, I considered it a pretty radical thing for a pastor to say. He was speaking at our banquet for the pregnancy center. And he said, we've got to pray. It's going to take the power of Almighty God to bring about the changes that we need. He said, but don't pray too long. Because while you're praying, babies are being killed.
I think there is a need for action as well. And the prayer is the first action. Because in prayer, we can get guidance on what step to take. So I think that's one of the problems too, though, Coach, is that we forget that we need prayer to, number one, we need to call on the name of the Lord and the power of God and all that. But we also need the Lord to give direction. But a lot of people just go out there and do something without getting direction from God first, and then it becomes a hot mess. Because you get out in front of God, and you better make sure it's God's will before you get out there and doing it, because it may not have the end result you were thinking if you don't confer with Him first. But yeah, I mean, the Lord expects us to rise up and do something. I mean, that's all through Scripture.
Isn't it funny? So we've got two examples here. Prior to social media, internet, and all that, prayer could be a substitute for acting. Okay? Now we have social media where proclamation can be a substitute for ministry. Okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, look at what's happening here. We've got proclamation, we've got prayer, and we've got ministry. Ministry stands alone as the only one that is truly costs us. Okay? Isn't it funny how it's the one that gets compromised every time?
Oh, absolutely.
I'll pray for your ministry. Oh, well, thank you, but our vendors have to get paid.
You got that, and you have it takes 5 seconds to post something on Facebook, whereas it might take you 5 hours to work in a soup kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
The rubber meets the road when the soup kitchen needs somebody to serve some meals. That's where it hits, because throwing up. I again think it's great that we flood the internet with the things of the Lord. Absolutely. But that can't be where our faith and our faith in action stops. It has to carry on much further than that, because there is a community around us that's facing a Christless eternity. My wife and I talked about, and this was just before we started tonight. There was someone who was associated with Scientology,
Mm-hmm.
who passed away, and I looked at my wife, and she was like, that's so sad because she wasn't that old. And I looked at my wife. I said, you know what really just puts it into perspective and really hits you in the gut? Is that if she didn't know Jesus Christ, she is in hell at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you start looking at your community around you through that prism, and if hell is real to you, man, I don't want people going to that. I don't want my worst enemy enduring hell.
Mm-hmm.
But Satan's made me disconnect from everybody so much because of all these different things that I'm forgetting that that's a soul that's one breath away from a Christless eternity. And I believe that's what Satan's trying to do right now. It's just, everybody is talking about divide, divide, divide. I don't even think it's just the division. I think it's the disconnection. Because
it's easier to be divided when we're isolated. What was it? The employer had two employees that were engaged in a dispute, and he had them wash the windows, one on the inside and one on the outside. So they had to that's the way to do it. But seriously, I mean, when we see that and we see it, have you ever listened to it's Paul Harvey? I think it was. I'm going to tell you the wrong year. I'm always wrong on this. It was 1962 or 1965. Yeah, somewhere in there.
Oh, If I Were the Devil?
If I Were the Devil. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just listen to that again.
Mm-hmm.
And watch. Look around you. That's exactly what's happening.
He called it.
The Lord was pointing it out. This is what's coming.
All right. Well, Andy, you've given us much to think about. But folks, in our daily conduct, we've talked about a lot, folks. Be prayerful about the stewardship of your time on social media. I guess that would be a good umbrella to hold over this whole conversation. But Andy, thanks for your insight. Thanks for sharing, because you always bring something special, and your leadership at Mount Zion Baptist Church is a beacon that all could take a look at. And we appreciate you taking your time, to come here and hang out with us every month. And good to see you again. We'll see you again about this time next month. Don't be a stranger. Come. I sent you something the other day. Give me a call.
Sure. All right.
Thank you. Andy Clapp, right here on pjnet.tv. It's not over, folks. We are just getting started at the bottom of the hour. We will have Casper from the great state of Colorado, and I've got to get a little work done between now and then. I got to get a lot of work done between now and then, and I'll leave you with two questions that lead to a personal challenge I would like you to contemplate. The first question is this: what is the boldest thing that you have ever done for Jesus Christ? And secondly, when was that? Folks, it's great to pray, it's great to proclaim, but if we are going to accomplish the purpose for which we have been planted here, we can never allow ourselves to be satisfied with our answer to either of those two questions.